please subscribe and don't forget to press the bell icon to get notified whenever we upload a new video.
Okay, welcome back. So we've got the market, which is up 30 points, which means we've come off a little bit, 10 points odd from when we started at 11. As I was saying, well, you need a bounce and a meaningful bounce today and put some distance between those panicky and anxiety-stricken levels that we saw yesterday and where we shut close at 3:30. So 11,507 is where we're at. Not quite there, but advanced decline, etc. The indicators are looking okay. 2+1 on advanced decline ratio. Let's turn our attention to what's happening in the commodity and currency space. Manisha is here with all of that. Manisha, morning.
Morning, Prashant. Thank you so much for that. At a time when you are looking at the crude oil prices trading on the higher side, the rupee around all-time lows, and the crude import bills are ready to hike up, it doesn't really sound like a very good time when you are looking at the gold imports also doubling for the month of August. We have seen gold imports in August at a 15-month highs. If you look at the number, it has been at around 100 tons of gold imported for the month of August, which is a good 116% of a jump up year-on-year basis is what the GFMS report shows. So how good or bad is that? Good, I'm assuming, for the gold buyers and traders in the Indian markets, but clearly not a good time for the watchers of current account deficit there. Joining us to talk more about that is Sudheesh Nambiath, who's head India Gold Policy Center at IIM Ahmedabad. Sudheesh, hi, thank you so much for joining us. First of all, what has led to a run-up in the import numbers as we see, and do you see it sustaining really?
Hello everyone, thanks for having me in. I actually wasn't surprised with the numbers for the reason that IIJ's 2018, I heard from the market that the response was very overwhelming. That's the prominent jewelry show organized by GJPC. And it was overwhelming, and then the price declined post the show. Right. So eventually what happens is if the price had increased, many of the orders wouldn't have got materialized. But in this case, the price decreased by around 400 rupees on 10 grams. And that turned out to be good for the retailers and the wholesalers. So that was evidently good restocking that happened at that point in time. And thus you saw the increase. But then you look at the average import all through this year, starting from January, it has just been at 61 tons. That's been the average imports. Okay, so that's one reason. And secondly, you also need to look at the rise in imports cannot be completely attributed to the domestic demand because since April, I have been seeing a sustained increase in arbitrage trading. That's also, I would rather put it as round tripping that's happening in gold. What normally the gold imported for re-exports, which is usually just about 12 tons, that's now going around 20 to 22 tons. That's quite a substantial rise. Okay, so and that's again one of the main reasons that is added to the increased imports.
Sure, but Sudheesh, also tell us how well is the country going to take it, or the government going to take it? Because with the kind of rupee depreciation that we've seen, the number really looks huge in that sense. With the current account deficit concerns as well, I am assuming this number is not going to go down well with the government. How do you see that in sense of policy making?
I don't expect any kind of major reaction to this number. Okay. They of course would get into details about why this increase was, and as I said, the exports have contributed to it. Sure. And exports has contributed to it at a time when many of the exporters are crying that they're not getting the metal. Okay, so that's one part. And secondly, I've been reading various analyst reports which are saying that the current prices have bottomed out. So and should price go up, I don't see much of a demand coming in, fresh demand coming in, which would mean that the imports will again come back to something like 50, 60 tons. And again, Kerala being one of the major buyers, like it contributes close to 15-20% of the total share. So you look at the sales that happened in during Onam, it was really bad. So I expect a lot of inventory that's going to be lying there. And okay, so I don't see the trend continue maybe after October, I don't see this trend continuing.
Fair point. Sudheesh, we'll let you go at that. So perhaps we have seen a jump up in the imports in gold in August, but the trend is not expected to continue. Enough inventories in the Indian markets right now.
Okay, all right. Thanks, Manisha, for that. Well, let's get talking about the technicals of the market now. We have Ashwini Gujral to discuss what he's strategizing 11:30 a.m. today. So, Ashwini, over to you then. What's your recommendation for the Nifty as well as stocks? And to add to that, the rupee is now closing in towards the low point of the day as we speak.
See, the sense I have is that the market wants to do a pullback, which means it wants to go higher. Because overall, if you see, the advanced decline is fairly positive. So maybe RBI comes in again and we go back to 71.65, etc. Bond yields are kind of cooling off. Crude is kind of coming off. So, what we've done right now is we've just bought into Nifty, Bank Nifty, etc. And we are hoping that because of the expiry, there could be more short covering. Because till now, you can't say there's been any great short covering from the lows. And it appears like the market is kind of trying to consolidate sideways to up. So right now, we are more long than short. And I would think today will be a good day to show a pullback, provided these parameters recover a bit. Having said that, Pidilite Industries a buy with a stop of 1135, target of 1180. Sun Pharma is a buy with a stop of 674, target of 700. And Titan is a buy with a stop of 870, target of 895.
Ashwini, thanks very much. Appreciate you joining in with those trades. We've got some questions coming away from viewers. Ronak has 300 shares of Escorts. He's bought them at 825 rupees each. He's a long-term investor, wants to know if he should buy more or sell. Cost is 825. Escorts, Ashwini, what would you tell him?
I don't want to give him a stop-loss target type of answer, but explain to him how things like Escorts are bought. There was a 2-year drought that we know of. At that time, Escorts was 150 to 170. Now you've had a good monsoon and Escorts is coming off. You buy these cyclicals when they've gone through a big decline. Now here his issue is that if tomorrow you have a bad monsoon, next year, etc., Escorts will be at 400. So being this sort of long-term investor is not a very sensible thing. Now, he's not losing a lot of money. If I were him, I would get on to the next sector which is coming into fancy, probably pharma, not even consumption, because consumption could also come off. So rate sensitives could be your, next sector. Buying things at, wild prices and then cyclically things turn down, I don't think even being a long-term investor will help you in a cyclical.
On to a CNBC TV18 exclusive, veteran banker Uday Kotak has warned that a weak rupee is only a short-term fix to improve export competitiveness. In an exclusive conversation with CNBC TV18's Ritu Singh on the sidelines of the USIBC India Idea Summit, Uday Kotak added that persistent weakness in the currency could in fact push the current account deficit past the red line of 3%.
The rupee was on a REER basis a little overvalued, therefore this correction is fine. There are two ways of getting competitiveness. One is a short-term way of getting competitiveness of our exports, which is improving the currency, that is depreciating the currency. Longer-term improvement of competitiveness is through productivity. And that is where I think India needs a lot more work. Finally, it's about the current account deficit.
Yes.
For the year ended March 2018, we were sub 2%. We were 1.9% of GDP. If you go back to 2013, we were at 4.4, 4.5%. That was a red line.
Yeah.
As I mentioned, I believe the amber line for India is a current account deficit not exceeding 3%.
Yeah.
And we run the risk of being pretty close to it in 2018-19.
Okay, so that is Uday Kotak talking about the rupee as well as the macro challenges that we are facing at this point in time. We need to take a break with the news that the Nifty is quite stable and steady. We have an advanced decline ratio, which is in positive terrain. And in terms of specific stocks, Something like a Z Entertainment stands out because that stock is down around 6% There was a downgrade which came through today, and stocks such as Titan, which are bouncing back, so that stock up around 2%.
We've got the market, which has come off a little bit more. I mean, actually, when we started at 11, there was 40 points. There's half of it left on the table. 20-odd points higher on the Nifty is what we have. So there is a slide which is coming through, and I think you could track that to what's happening on the dollar rupee, because the dollar rupee also started to slip. It got to the 71 point, almost a 90 kind of levels. And from there, I think there has been a little bit of pullback which has come through. But it did go to the lows of the day today, although not quite at the all-time low which we saw yesterday. There you go, 71.91. So yeah, I mean, it's actually picking up pace. The dollar is strengthening even more at this point. I think we fell short of about 3 paise from the 72 mark. So we'll see how we really kind of sort of where we really go in that particular sense. The market is losing steam, as I said, 13-14 points lower. There's news at the bottom of the screen, and this is with regards to Escorts. Escorts has launched its first autonomous tractor concept. CNBC TV18's Arib Sherwani caught up with Nikhil Nanda, CMD of the Escorts Group, and Shenu Agarwal, CEO of Escorts Agri Machinery, at the launch of this particular product, and began by asking them where did the idea come from for getting into autonomy and whether it is the future for farming as well. Listen in.
The idea was more about smart farming. You know, it's about really creating productivity and smartness in terms of all the information that is digitally available that we can equip and empower our farming community with. With the kind of knowledge that we have, I think, you know, in terms of knowing the moisture, knowing the kind of cultivation that you can do, the entire process of connecting the equipment, connecting the ecosystem and bringing the knowledge in a manner that we call quote-unquote autonomous farms. Having a tractor drive itself without the ecosystem being created, in my personal view, has is unproductive.
Right.
So in today's launch at Exclusive, we are very proud to, one, bring in partners, because Escorts is a company that has always believed in partnership, and we're not saying we're going to do it on our own. We possibly cannot do it on our own. That's the reason we have partners like Bosch, we have partners like Trimble, we have partners like Motherson Sumi, Reliance Jio. And all of us are bringing in and creating that ecosystem.
So in what capacity will these partners be on board? For example, Reliance Jio, Trimble, Motherson Sumi, Bosch. I mean, what is the kind of technology that you're expecting to come in as part of these trials?
So all these partners will create as what we call autonomous farms. So you'll have an autonomous tractor that's going to speak to the implement, it's going to speak to the ecosystem, will understand and digitally give all the information to the farmer about the entire health and entire acreage of the farming that he wants to do. So the knowledge of precision and knowledge of where exactly does he need to sow that seed, in which part of that land, which has a maximum irritability of maximum throughput or productivity, in a manner that is done in a precision manner through analytical capability that even a human being cannot do. So our endeavor is to create an experience and create an ecosystem that can demonstrate productivity at a level that we have not seen in India.
Right. In fact, coming to you, Mr. Agarwal, so what we've seen is an autonomous concept. Going forward, what kind of timeline are we looking at in terms of turning this concept into a prototype and then eventually a production variant coming out of the line? What is the kind of timeline that we're looking at?
Yeah. See, our idea is not to just design and produce an autonomous tractor. Our idea, as Nikhil said, our idea is to produce an autonomous concept around the farm. Right, and therefore it has a lot of elements. So things will come in various phases, in steps, right? So to begin with, we may have autonomous tractor maybe in 18 to 20 months from now, right, at a commercial level. But going forward, we'll create a lot of autonomy around the farm itself. Now, this is not just a machine, but these could be business models. These should be rental services. These could be, aftermarket service and part supply. These could be other sensors around the farm to measure the soil health, to measure the moisture. So that is the whole concept that we are actually launching. Right? So we look at a time frame of, let us say, 1 to 3 years where we will go to probably the full extent of autonomy.
What's your view on the volume growth outlook? Where do you see it going from here?
So at the start of the year, we did give guidance of about 9 to 11% at the industry level. And recently, we increased that guidance to about 12 to 14, 15%. Right? Of course, we also said that we'll do better than the industry. Right? I think right now we'll maintain that guidance, although there is some optimism creeping up because of better monsoons, recent recent decisions of the government to increase MSP significantly, right? So there is some optimism, but at this moment we'll maintain a guidance that we just gave about a month ago, which is 12 to 14 or 15%, right? Of course, we'll do better than the industry, as we have been doing in the last couple of years.
We have Devang Mehta from Centrum joining in to discuss the fundamentals of the market. Devang, hi, thanks very much for taking the time out. Just wanted to start with your thoughts on Zee Entertainment. The stock is down 6% There have been downgrades which have come in from brokerages on the fear that there are more people watching content online, so traditional media won't be as popular going forward. Your thoughts?
Thanks for having me on the show, Ekta. Good morning. I think there's no coverage on this company, but on a general basis, if I can say that, yes, there is already an emerging competition from a lot of content players like the Netflix and Amazons of the world for a lot of content providers, a lot of channels here. So yes, there would be some sort of pressure. It was a lot of, I can say, easy money for a lot of such companies, which wouldn't be the case. There will be intense competition which will come in the coming days with a margin sacrifice as well. So my sense is, yes, there can be certain concerns, but on an individual company level, it is difficult to comment.
No, do you have coverage, or do you own anything else in that space? Any other names?
I think we used to like the multiplex space here a couple of in the last 1 or 2 years. The only problem over here is again the uncertainty that comes in with the allowing of the outside food and beverages, as well as the different state of things which are taken by the different courts. So I think this is also beginning to be a little difficult space right now. So maybe I think one can avoid media as of now. There are many sectors emerging out which are going to do well. So maybe this is a year where actually the media should get traction because of this being an election year with state elections and also general election coming to the fore. But ideally, the entertainment sector is one sector which one can safely sort of avoid at this point.
Okay, well, just keep your eye out on those flashes. This is with regards to the judgment on Section 377, which we will be following quite closely. So there are some statements coming in from the Chief Justice of India, Deepak Mishra, talking about the LGBTQ community having the same fundamental rights as others do, but separately you need to maintain the heterogeneous nature of society as well. So those statements will keep coming through, and we'll keep apprising our viewers of it. But Devang, separately, what would you probably buy into at current levels from the mid-cap space?
I think what we have observed in this rally, so-called rally, and the correction in the last 2-3 days, the rally had actually been quite fast and furious. So a bit of correction or consolidation that is happening right now will provide a lot of, I can say, headroom to people who are just waiting on cash on the sidelines to buy a lot of such mid-cap companies in the consumption universe, in the financialization theme. We have been quite positive on the insurance space, on a couple of even mid-cap private banks could be looked into, and consumption again, where there is a correction on the basis of, I can say, fundamentally valuations being high, but the volume growth that we have seen in the last quarter with earnings showing a bit of green shoots in a lot of such companies. I think consumption space is one space we will again hunt to look at, discretionary or non-discretionary both, and again what has to be focused is the rural expansion that is happening, or the rural economy which is coming back to the fore post a couple of good monsoons.
Devang, just a quick point. Would you say that this run-up in the pharma and IT stocks, that is mostly, I mean, what is this being driven by now? It's the rupee, the sharp rupee, and the reality that maybe the new range is 70, 72 to the dollar. So is it a readjustment to that, or the first leg was driven by improving fundamentals, and maybe the correction itself was overdone, but this new run, latest run?
I think clearly the last 2-year story, if I can say, just dissecting the last 6 months, pharma, IT, telecom had dragged the markets and underperformed big time, while the consumption and the financials had done well, or even the auto universe had done well. Last 6 months, what we have been observing is that IT, there has been a traction on the back of good European and US recovery in terms of the economic recovery that I'm talking about. Plus, of course, the rupee depreciation, which has been a phenomenon in the last, I can say, at least least 15-20 days or a month or so, has added a bit of flavor to the IT sector, and which was already a big under-owned sector. I can't say that right now that it's under-owned, but pharma still looks quite under-owned in a way that there were US FDA issues, plus a lot of earnings cut on a lot of large cap pharma companies. So I think, yes, that readjustment is happening. People just want to buy a bit of, I can say, value and a bit of export play in the portfolio where they were hugely underweight. So I think this adjustment, as you rightly said, is happening in the individual portfolios, as well as, I can say, the institutional portfolios, where they are finding a bit of safe haven in terms of IT and pharma addition in the portfolio.
Have you looked at Aurobindo's acquisition?
We have a very positive view on the company, as it's been a really ridiculous valuation it's trading at, and the acquisition seems to be quite in line with what the management was talking about earlier. I think it will be accretive itself in the first year, but more work is being done on that, so and will not be able to comment on this acquisition. But yes, we are positive on the stock.
Devang, thanks very much. Appreciate you joining in and speaking with us there. Thanks indeed. So there is Devang Mehta and his thoughts on the market, his thoughts on various sectors. I mean, it's basically slipped into the red now. The Nifty, that is 11,478. So 40 points gone in the last 60 minutes or so. I think we've got the judgment coming in on Section 377. And we'll put that out in just a bit. But Ekta already read the comments out, which the commentary from the Chief Justice Deepak Misra out earlier, essentially saying that LGBTQ community has the same rights as others. And I think we'll have the verdict also shortly.
And all four judgments are unanimous. I think that's one of the other flashes which came through.